My name is Esa Pelkonen. I'm a philosopher of education, a PhD researcher of educational sciences, and a co-founder and learning designer of Doctoral gaming. Today I will be talking about the art of gaming, building upon the idea of meaningful dwelling in games. So what do I mean by dwelling? Well, to dwell is to linger in time, to be alive in relation to space and time, to a certain chronotope, as Bakhtin would say. Now, the history of mankind in this sense is too long to recite here, but shortly we could say that the realization of time gradually revealed the power of sacrifice, transforming sustained attention to evolution of thought and work, further accelerated and synchronized by industrial processes. Now, for some time already, we have inhabited the digital condition, where the relationship with time has evolved beyond its limits, resulting in fragmentation, where competition and interruption of our attention is constant. This has generated unhealthy ways to dwell within the digital environment, such as doom scrolling through the negative feed of social media and other addictive behaviors where contemplation becomes rare. Swipe, scroll, next. And this kind of media might be called feed media. Feed media invites us to move to encounter something new. Its value lies in the next item, in the never-ending stream where progress becomes quantitative movement, measured by how quickly we arrive at the new experience. But not all digital media structures attention this way. In contrast, there is what we might call deep media that invites us to stay and perceive, where value lies in engagement, sustained through invested attention, where progress becomes qualitative movement toward dwelling, toward understanding. Feed rewards novelty and deep rewards attention. Well, where do games stand on this feed deep axis? They don't really want to be swiped, they demand participation, they invite active decision making, and you cannot progress without agency, without engagement. And yet, games too can collapse in the logics of feed media, right? When design privileges reward over perception, progress becomes repetition, engagement becomes compulsion. So, the designer holds significant power in shaping whether a game becomes a medium of fast feeding or deep meaning. But as with any medium, we must not forget the responsibility of the experiencer as well, and their capacity to engage meaningfully. Both bring power to the encounter, and together they create something in between, a space of agency where the game truly happens. This in-between space of emergence is what we might call interaction. Not interaction between two fixed entities, but a relational process, something that becomes through its unfolding in time. Today my aim is to explore how the player participates in co-constituting this dwelling, and how this process might be understood as the art of gaming. So, a game does not truly exist until it's played. Right, they require agency to unfold. Painting hands, film runs, but game waits as a system of potential emerging in the co-creation between the player and the system. How does this co-creation become art? To answer this question, we turn to the concept of dwelling, the philosophical construct of being in relationship with the environment, upon which I built my understanding of the artistic experience of gaming. By dwelling, I do not mean passive inhabitation, but an active space of becoming, a way of relating to the world through shifting modes of agency. To Dwell is to be anchored, yet open to the traversing flux of time, reshaping both the space and our way of being within it. Drawing from traditions in art philosophy, I propose these 4 interrelated modes of dwelling: immersion, configuration, reflection, and reconfiguration. These form a kind of tidal movement of approach and distance, of arrival and return, where each cycle deepens the relationship. Immersion is the first mode of agency, the becoming with the world. It is this unhurried attunement where you begin to sense the rhythm, the flow of the system, the stage of lingering exploration, of synchronizing with the game's potential, where meanings are localized and situated. This is the home of lived experience. It's about feeling the world. Second mode is configuration. Here you step slightly back to perceive the world more analytically. You begin to recognize patterns, how mechanics relate to narrative, how the world holds together. And this is not detachment, but a kind of configurative understanding of the world. The third mode of agency is reflection, seeing yourself in relation to the world. This is the kind of turning point where the question shifts from what kind of world am I inhabiting to what is my relationship to this world. In reflection, the mapped system becomes a mirror, and you begin to develop your own taste. This is where awareness develops into self-awareness. The fourth mode is reconfiguration, where the insightful reflection begins to shape you. A shift in perspective, a practice of active becoming. Here experience is no longer something you merely had, but something you engage with to reorganize how you perceive the world, how you read systems, how you inhabit them, how you affect them and are affected by them. Reconfiguration doesn't require a dramatic change. It may be also a subtle reorientation to become with the world from a bit different perspective than before. From the standpoint of artistic experience, it is essential to dwell through all these modes, because feeling without interpretation collapses into an inward cycle of addictive confluence. And distance without reflection becomes conformative knowledge without understanding. And reflection without transformation remains self-awareness without actual change. And change, not resolving into feeling, hardens into idea detached from lived experience. Now I would like to synthesize the idea of meaningful dwelling with games by elaborating this cyclic model. So first, as stated, you gotta lose yourself in the game by attuning to its rhythm, to feel it. Immersion depends on design, player profile and skill level, but it always requires operational literacy to move within the system through situated meaning making. From here, attention may begin to flow toward the game's mechanical or narrative structures, depending on the player. After some time of immersive play, a curious player takes a slight distance and looks behind the curtain. Not to exit the game, but to perceive how it holds together while remaining within it. And when coherence of the design holds the interest, patterns of meaning start to emerge, such as how mechanics relate to representation or how actions encode values. Once the map of meaning has been configured, a new question arises. What does this mean to me? Here the gamer has reached a reflective distance where one begins to wonder, how am I playing and why? What does this say about me? Do I value this and why? This is where taste, evaluation and subjectivity emerge. where play extends into value beyond the domain of games. Design can orient toward this through productive frictions, such as challenging mechanics, ethical tension, and narrative devices. But reflection alone is not enough. We need reconfiguration, which requires plasticity from the game system and our minds as well. Otherwise, we risk becoming prisoners of our own thought loops, within and beyond the game. Reconfiguration reshapes perception, enabling new ways to explore and become with the game. The cycle of dwelling is now fulfilled when insight is integrated into practice, and we re-enter the world transformed. This requires layered playability and recursive depth from the designed system. And so we return to the start of the cycle, to feel, but with a bit deeper relationship with the world that we inhabit. Artistic experience with games is not passive lingering, but this kind of recursive practice of engagement, where immersion, configuration, reflection, and reconfiguration creates a cycle of deep meaning. And when this cycle holds, I think that the game ceases to be a dopamine loop and becomes a loop of meaning instead, capable of flowing beyond the game itself. Therefore, I would like to invite you to rethink how we speak about gaming and game design, designing not only mechanics but affective choreographies, not only systems but maps of encoded values, and not only challenges but frictions that invite reflections, not only outcomes but plasticity that allows transformation. And not only replayability but recursive depth, enabling the meaningful integration of change. We often ask whether games are art. But perhaps the more precise question is, how do games become art? Today I have suggested that this does not occur by declaration, but by expanding the quality of engagement between the designer and player. Dwelling is a constructive stance, shifting us from reactive performance toward attuned immersion, systemic perception, reflective wonder, and reorientation through action. Within this dynamic process of agency, gaming transposes into a qualitative movement of becoming with the world. And that, to me, is the heart of any artistic experience. Thanks a lot, that's it for me. Here you can see my contact information. Please do take contact if you have any questions or follow-up questions of this presentation or anything else. On the right hand side you see this visual artist Gabriel who has designed all these amazing graphics used in this presentation. Be well.